Hello and welcome to your Employee Management Client User Training. Today, we will start with hiring a new employee and we're going to review the navigation tips, how to find employees and make changes. The first thing that you will see is your client landing page. But in order to manage employees, we must navigate to the employee list. Let's take a look. The employee list defaults to alphabetical ascending by last name. However, you can manipulate this employee list by using the filter and sort tools. We'll begin by going to the column chooser. It's a small icon located to the top right. One left mouse click, and now that column chooser opens up. Notice that I can hover left mouse click and I can drag this around my screen. I can also use the top of the window, left mouse click and drag to expand. I could use the bottom to do the same, or I could grab the corner. What I need to do in order to filter is select the column that I want to see. So if I want to go by employment category, I will hover, left mouse click, hold that down, and then I'm going to drag it and release. Now you'll notice that the employee list has changed drastically. I can now see my employment categories that are not in an employment category here until I expand it, and I can see, sure enough, nothing there. And then here I have my full-time, expand, and I have my part-time, expand. Now I could take this a step further. I can left mouse click on pay type, and then I'm going to drag that over. And now when I expand, I will be able to see all of the pay type, auto hourly, hourly, salary, and how many employees are in those categories. Once the employee is found, click on the employee's name. Notice the employee summary is selected on the left side of the page. Across the top of this page, I can see that I am looking at 23 of 59 employment records. The icon resembling a small notebook is your view and modify list. One left mouse click would return us to the employee list, where you could select someone else from the list. You could have also scrolled back and forth through the list. The magnifying glass icon allows you to search for individual employees. One left mouse click, and now having typed in Gilmore, the last name of the employee, which is what you want to condition yourself to use, pulls in all instances of Happy Gilmore and Lucky Gilmore's employment records. So I'm going to select Happy, who is in Acme Corporation. The employee summary allows the client user to see all information about the employee. If this were a new employee and we had just hired this employee, this is the first page that opens up. It's really good because you'll be able to see any missing information that you may need to collect from your employees. And if you want to change any of the information, each of the light gray words are hyperlinks. And when you select a hyperlink with one left mouse click, it will drive you to the page where you can make modifications to the employee's record. So for instance, if this employee called me and this is not an employee who logs into employee self-service and manages their own information, maybe they've moved and they would like for me to change their address. So in the big box here to the left, I can see the word address. When I hover, it changes colors. When I left mouse click, it drives me to the general page, and this is where I could come down and enter in a brand new address. Coming back to the word employee summary, one left mouse click, and now it brings me back to the employee summary again. Another search feature in iSolved is the search the menu field, which is located underneath your name in the pink box. So if I selected search the menu, and I type in the word salary, the system provides me with a link. I am managing my employee, therefore I will go to Employee Management, Employee Pay Salary. One left mouse click, and now I arrive on the salary page. And this is where I could go in and make that modification, going back to Employee Summary. Another feature located In the menu tree is the push pin. If you select the push pin, it will collapse the menu tree. The menu tree presents icons, and if you hover, you'll be able to see a pop-out for the title of that icon. One left mouse click will expand the menu tree for the icon so that you could then select where you're going and it would open up the page for you. And if you select the push pin again, it will then expand the menu tree so that you can see the words or the terms for those icons. Next, we will talk about 2 different ways to manually hire a new employee. The first one is the quick hire. On quick hire, we'll notice that we have the black action bar that runs across the top of the page. Inside, we see the word save and we see the words cancel. And notice as I hover, the color turns to a light gray. In the body of the page, we see 2 columns. And if I scroll, you'll notice that they do go all the way down the page. Something to remember about the quick hire page is that it provides the information about the employee on one page. I would drop down from a pick list, select the company. For the majority of this page, you'll find that it is a point and click system. So we've already created this in the back office of iSolve when we asked the questions going through the implementation process. And this has been built specifically for your needs. For instance, the employment category could potentially also contain seasonal, intern, any type of employment category that your organization requires. This can be configured to match that. I will select full-time. I will continue down the page completing all required fields such as Social Security, first name, last name. On the Social Security, you will notice that you have more than one type of ID. Social Security, individual tax identification number, which is your ITIN, other, and then you have an EIN as well. So if you were hiring a contractor who worked under their employee identification number or their individual tax identification number or other, you do have an opportunity to enter those as well. So I will go with social for training purposes, and I will begin filling in all components for the employee's personal information. Under the general topic, you're going to find self-service email. This is extremely important if the employee will be logging in to retrieve pay stubs, W-2s, address changes, direct deposit, whatever the employee is allowed to modify or update, and those are known as self-service roles. So if an employee is expected to log into iSolved HCM and see only their information and make changes to those or view those or access those areas, we need to ensure that we include their email address here. This can be a personal email address and it can be changed once that employee is brought onto or into the organization. However, they are accessing their own information, so it's okay if it is their personal email address. The disclaimer on that statement would be if this person is a manager, because workflows are tied to things like time off request, missing punches, changes in the system. And if the manager is managing other people, it would be best if the manager's self-service email is the work email, because that way all of those alerts will go to their work email and not their personal email. And then if the working relationship is ever severed, that could be tied into your offboarding piece where it would be a step. You go to the employee self-service and you change that back to their personal email. Once I've entered in the self-service email address, I need to also ensure that the Enable Self-Service Access is selected. If this is selected and you do not have an email address, you must deselect the checkbox, otherwise it will not let you save. Next, as you can see, I can put in marital status, the address, and things like that. I'm going to go ahead and complete this, and then we will revisit. Once the quick hire page or form is completed, and we have entered in all of the required fields as marked with an asterisk, you're ready to select the word save, and that would actually hire in the employee. It would bring them into your system. Notice the type of data that we've collected here on this page. Legal company, that they're active, they're full-time, their social security, first and last name, self-service email. We have that box ticked there for when we do select save, it's going to send them an email with a hyperlink, and they're going to be able to get set up and serve themselves in the system. The physical address. What you'll notice is the zip code will drive for you the resident location. So if we looked at the resident location right now, it's still set to the resident location for Austell in Cobb County. If I were to select Georgia, Fulton for Atlanta, then that's going to change. And now it is associated with 30339 Atlanta in Fulton County. The state is a drop-down pick list, but because I know the zip, it automatically filled in for me. I have entered in this person's date of birth and the gender. I've also assigned them to their pay group, the pay type, and the system knows when I select my frequency of semi-monthly that there are 86.67 hours in that semi-monthly pay period is auto-filled for me. That does not mean that this employee will be paid 86.67 hours every week, because this person is an hourly employee. Therefore, they will only be paid for hours worked. So if they only work 32 hours within that semi-monthly pay period, 86.67, they're only going to get paid 32 hours. Okay, that is a question that comes up quite often. Normal hours in a semi-monthly is 86.67. That's how many hours could potentially be worked. Notice that if I come down and let's say that I made a typo and really that was supposed to be $35. If I put in $35, the other two fields are going to correct themselves. So this works kind of like a calculator. Alternate pay rates can also be built. So a shift differential, if we have maybe someone who works multiple jobs, like in a restaurant, sometimes they make $725, $775 if they're a hostess. If they're a bartender, $15 or $19.50. And then if they're serving tables, maybe they make the lower hourly wage because they could potentially make a lot of tips. So in that instance, I would drop down, had I built these out, and I would have selected those. So a host. And so now she can allocate particular amount of hours worked to one of those earnings codes or that alternate pay rate. And the system's intuitive enough to understand to pay her that rate for those hours worked. And we're going to get back into that when we go to payroll. Direct deposits. So here I have my active checking account with the remaining net. So I only have one account. If you have one account only, always use remaining net. This will happen every pay. It will go to my Bank of America BOA routing, and this is the account number. My description is my Bank of America BOA checking account ending in 4321. If my new employee has another account, I will hit add new, select active. Maybe this time it's a savings. And now the employee can let me know how much money to send and how often. So what is the frequency for that? So first, I am going to send on the second and third pay of the month the amount of 150 or the percent of 20. So if I'm going to send 150 every time I'm paid to my active savings, I will then add in the routing number and account number. Now notice, now that I have two, I need to distinguish between them. So both of them are at Bank of America. This is a checking, this is a savings, and then the last four of the account number is typically how I use the description. You do not have to use it that way. It's totally user preference. I'm going to scroll back up to the top of the page, and we're going to go down the left column. Department, location, those are required as indicated with an asterisk. Division is not. Benefit class, GL account. You could even do that if you know what it is. We can build out jobs, projects, tax location, resident, work location, resident. Again, that was populated when I entered in my zip code. Work location is a drop-down pick list. I now have my single status for my federal and my state. And then, of course, any other information that is applicable to this employee. Every now and then we come across an employee who is exempt from taxes, FICA and FUTA, things of that nature. If you come here to the tax exemption status type and select that, I have my FICA and FUTA exempt here. When I'm finished, all I have to do is hit save, and that would hire my person into Quick Hire. So what's the difference between the new hire wizard and the Quick Hire? The main differences between the New Hire Wizard and the Quick Hire are that the New Hire Wizard moves page to page, whereas the Quick Hire Wizard had a lot of information on one page, with the exception of federal reporting data and the I-9 section. After entering the required data on the first page of the New Hire Wizard, select the word Next in the black action bar to move forward to the next page. The second page of the New Hire Wizard contains federal reporting data and the I-9 fields. This information is not found inside of Quick Hire. The New Hire Wizard navigates with a Previous and Next button located in the blue action bar. Notice the fields are identical to the fields I completed in the Quick Hire. They're just on separate pages. I'll select Next, complete those fields, Next, complete those fields, until I arrive at the very last page. And the difference here you'll see in the black action bar, we do have the word Previous, but now we have the word Save. Save is the action that hires your brand new employee into the iSolved HCM system so that you can get them paid. So what do we do about the federal filing data if we've used the New Hire Wizard? That is easy. We're going to go to the menu tree, making sure that we have employee management expanded, and we're going to come down to the first employee maintenance with the little pink expansion arrow beside it. We're going to click on that. So one left mouse click on employee maintenance, one left mouse click on federal reporting data. After you've hired someone, their employee record is going to remain open for you so that you can visit areas like the federal reporting data and the employer I-9 verification pages and complete your work. The federal reporting data page defaults to disability. We need to talk about this. It's asking for a disclosure date. This is the date that the employee has disclosed to you their disability status. So put in the accurate date, and then are they disabled? Did they disclose to you their status is a yes, I am disabled, a no, or a choose not to answer? And then you can put in any notes that you wish. Do they require accommodation? If so, you can tick the box there. Then notice there's other tabulars. So I'm going to click on the EEO tab, and this is where the HR director can open up Ethic Origin and they can select this. Now, if your employee has completed the onboarding New Hire Wizard, which is our next topic of discussion, they potentially have answered this already. But as an administrator, if we are entering this information for our employee manually, this is the page that we're going to come to do so. So we're just going to select and then the EEO override if anyone chooses to use this, and veteran information. So again, it works the same way. Using your handy dandy calendar, you would then select the active duty separation date, and then of course continue to tick the box beside the applicable fields. Visiting the employer I-9 verification page, this is where you will read the page, of course, and then select the radio button that is applicable to your needs as the administrator. I'm going to select next, and I'm going to continue with data entry for informational purposes. Here I would be able to see Again, if this person completed this on the electronic onboarding, they would have put in their own information. But this is for my employer I-9 verification so that I can get ready for my E-Verify process. Next is onboarding. Now we will navigate to Employee Admin Tools, Employee Administration, Initiate Onboarding, where we send out the electronic onboarding. This is where the admin will not be entering manual information. The employee will receive an email and they will complete that information for the admin. In order to send this out, I must select my legal company. I will also enter in the work location and use the onboarding template. Now, each of these items or these fields can be configured for your client's needs. Also at the bottom, you're going to notice I can enter a birth date, the social security, the hire date, or labor fields such as division, branch, location, department, project, job. It doesn't matter. Whatever you need, we will configure it to fit your needs. And also you will find that you can even assign someone to their benefit class. Once I've completed this, I will select the Save button, and that will send an email to my employee. And the email will be similar to this one, a nice warm welcome containing the URL where they will click on that hyperlink and it will drive them to the login page to get their onboarding wizard started. The administrator can see the progress of the employee and where they are in the onboarding stage by navigating to Employee Admin Tools, Employee Administration, Pending EE Dashboard. Now, there are several things very helpful about this particular dashboard. First, if I need to see where my employee is in the process of onboarding, I would tick the box beside the name. I could select Quick Hire, or I could select the New Hire Wizard. Larger organizations, best practice for them is to select the New Hire Wizard because that lets us see the federal reporting data on the second page. Let's take a look. So I will left mouse click on the New Hire Wizard button and I will be able to see where Tammy is in the process. As the administrator, I also have functions that I need to complete, such as employment category. All required fields will have an asterisk. Tammy has completed the first page of her onboarding wizard. As the administrator, I will go to the black action bar and select the word Next to move to the next page. Notice that Tammy has completed her personal information. She completed an electronic I-9 validation form. She has selected that she is not disabled and entered in the date that was disclosed with her EEO information, but the veteran information was left blank. That's okay. There's not an asterisk here, so it's not a required field. This is informational. The administrator could always go back to employee management, employee maintenance, federal reporting data at a later date and add in that information. I will select Next. This section is empty because this is the administrator's responsibility. And again, anything with an asterisk is required to move forward through the process. When I enter in the hourly rate of $25 an hour, when I go down and select Job, the annual salary, per pay salary, and hourly rate will work together kind of like a calculator to populate the correct amounts for each of those fields. And so that was by automation. You can enter in other fields if you know the information, and you can also add in their shift differentials or maybe an alternate pay rate if you wanted to. So maybe if this person works second shift, they will not make $25 an hour, they will make $25.50 an hour. Add new, another shift diff, $26 an hour. As you can see, the other types we have are per diem. Maybe you have a restaurant. You have someone who is a hostess or host, plus they cook, sometimes they bartend, sometimes they serve. All of those jobs or positions can have a different rate of pay. These can tie to a punch clock for hour allocation, or we could even manually enter them when we process payroll. I will select Next. Amy has completed her taxes. The onboarding wizard contains a tax wizard as well. And just by point and click, She would have answered questions, ticked radio buttons, and moved forward through the process of both federal and state if state is required. If state is not required, it would not be there. The department, location, division, and benefit class can be assigned from the Initiate Onboarding page. And now we come to the direct deposit piece. If this person has only one direct deposit, I'm going to ensure that the sequence contains the words remaining net. If this person has more than one account, and maybe even a different account type, I will then ask the employee, which account do you want to send money to first, and which account do you wish to catch the remaining net? You could flip these once you have them added, as long as one of the accounts state the sequence is remaining net, especially when there is only one account. Always want to see remaining net. At this point in the onboarding process, I would go up and select Save and go back to the list, and Tammy would appear on my active employee list. The Quick Hire button, one left mouse click, allows me to see the progress of the employee all on one page. It also allows me to complete all components that I need to complete as the administrator. The difference between the Quick Hire and the New Hire Wizard is that the Quick Hire presents all of the information on one page, with the exception of veteran, disability, EEO, and the I-9 information. So just remember, if you use the Quick Hire, you will always need to go back to Employee Management, Employee Maintenance, Federal Reporting Data, and visit each of those tabs to enter in that information after you have hired that individual. Continuing in the Employee Management training, we will visit Employee Management, Employee Maintenance General. You're always going to be presented with the list, so remember to filter your list and then select the person whom you wish to work with from that list. The General Information page contains just that, general information about your employee, their name and address, what name do they prefer, their personal information. So I'll scroll down. A few things important about the General page is that this is where you would come to update a person's social security number, and this is where you would come to update their birth date if you needed to. So visiting the social, I would drop down, select if this is a social, an individual tax identification number for a 1099, other, or EIN. If indeed this is a social security number, just select social security number and then go to update social security number, and this is where you're going to add in that information. And for the birth date, same thing, grayscale here, so just go to update birth date. Any changes that you make, don't forget, black action bar, hit save so that it saves your work. Another important one is the status for the employment information. If you have someone that's going out on LOA or FMLA or COVID, you can see here that you have different things. So I have long-term disability, layoff, maternity, paternity, short-term disability. The statuses for inactive can be built out to your needs. Another important one is just over to the right, the self-service email. This is the area where if our employee becomes locked out of their system, we would navigate to the general page, select that employee's name from the list, deselect Enable Self-Service, and then we would hit Save. Then we would tick the box again, and then we would select Save again. That sends the employee self-service email to your employees so that they can click on that link and then get everything started again. Tax information, contact information are also kept here. We mentioned the federal reporting data when we were manually and also onboarding, so hiring a new employee through either a manual entry or an electronic onboarding. This is where that area is: employee management, employee maintenance, federal reporting data. The disability is the tab that it defaults to, and then you would just need to left mouse click on each of the tablatures at the top and enter in that employee's information. The employer I-9 verification, so the employer piece, this is where you would go to see that. If you select an employee and their employer I-9 verification page does not look like this, and maybe it looks like this, You will select Next from the black action bar and then continue through completing your steps of the Employer I-9 verification page. The Worker Opportunity Tax Credit certification is also available in iSolved. Talk to your HCM specialist if you want to know more about that. Employment is a very important piece. We selected the employment category when we hired someone. However, I can look here and see that I have a part-time individual who actually started as a 1099. Now let's look at this area of the ACA employment status. If I select 1099, they are ACA exempt. If I select part-time, they are ACA variable. You may also see ACA part-time when their employment status changes. So here I would select Add New, drop down. Now this person is full-time. I need to ensure that this effective date is correct. It's going to default to the day that you take the action. However, you can manipulate that. And then I also need to know a little bit more about my employee. Do I need to fill out any of these fields? Do I need to tick the box and trigger the open enrollment for that person? Speak to your HCM specialist or HR specialist for more detail about that, because this is compliance driven. And then once I'm finished, I would select Save. And now, beginning on 9/16 of 2021, I have a full-time employee. Jobs allows me to see the job that this person is working, but it also allows me to know who he reports to. If I needed to change who he reports to, I would select Add New and I would start a brand new fresh record. That way I have my effective date driving when this person is no longer reporting to Joshua Abernathy and he's began reporting to someone else. You would just complete each of these fields and then select Save, and a brand new record would appear across the top. The organization supervisor manager piece, I would visit this page if I were making him a manager or a supervisor, again by adding New, selecting my legal company, the org field, the value of that org field, and then I would select which role he or she is moving into. That way, when I go to the jobs page, this person's name would be associated with the employees who are associated with that department. If an employee's organization piece is changing, such as department, division, branch, location, team, I would come here, and if they're using it, it will be built out. You would just point, click, and select it, point, click, and select it, and then hit save, and it would move that person to their new department. Miscellaneous data sets assist if the organization tracks things like parking spaces, immunizations, or vaccines. And in this instance, I have a license number for a nursing license. We would select to click Add New and complete each component of the fields. And once you have completed that, simply hit Save, and now you have set up a MISC dataset in association with the MISC field. Cert size is a very common way to use the miscellaneous fields. And these can even be set up for the onboarding wizard. Once you're finished entering in, just select Save. And those are the most common visited areas of employee maintenance. Employee pay, salary. The main thing to talk about with the salary is once you have selected the person you're working with, you would select the words Add New. So we're not going to modify an existing historical record. We would decide if this is a current, a future, or a historical change. We would then enter the date applicable to the record type. Change reason is not required, but I encourage it. And then you'll notice the pay type, the group, the frequency, and the normal amount of hours someone could potentially work within that week or within that pay period is going to be listed there. And just like when we hired someone, we would just simply put in either a rate of pay or we would enter in the salary amount for the year. We're going to say is $70,000. And then when I click down to get into my notes, it's going to tally that for me, kind of like a calculator. When you have someone moving from part-time to full-time, the salary page also allows you to create a change in normal hours for a live event. and that can trigger the open enrollment period if that person is eligible for benefits. And then, of course, you would hit save and you have your brand new record. Alternate pay rates. Judy is an hourly employee who makes $16.74 an hour. When she is on second shift, let's say that she makes $17 an hour. Save. You'll notice that it updates. When she works third shift, she makes $17.50 an hour. Save. If Judy worked in a restaurant as an hourly employee, maybe she's a bartender, I would have done the same thing. Bartending, I would have put what hourly rate she makes when bartending. If she is also a cook and that is something other than her assigned position and other than her assigned hourly wage, same thing, I would update it here. And that way, when I go to my payroll processing piece, I'm able to find that alternate pay rate and pay her accordingly for those hours worked in that other position. Tax information. This is something that the employee can do from the employee self-service side with the tax wizard. However, the administrator can also come here and they can make those changes for the employee. If Judy decided that she is not going to be head of household, she is going to change that to married filing jointly. It's as easy as point and click and then save. Earnings in iSolved. This is a static entry. That means that it's not going to change, and every time you go to process payroll, you will find that amount on your payroll register. If this person were earning from this page, we would put in how much that person is earning, and that is what she would receive each time she's paid. So if I entered in $300 here, the next time I process payroll, she would receive the $300 and every other payroll going forward until I come in and enter a stop date. If I wish, I can say that I want this to start on November 1. And if I don't put in a stop date, it won't stop until I come back and I visit this and I edit it. Earnings are very easy to manage. Just know that once it's entered here, you must come back here and either enter a stop date or you need to back that out in order for that person not to receive that money on their paycheck any longer. Deductions work the same way. There is some exceptions to the rule. If I go to any deduction tied to a benefit in a benefit module, I will receive a pop-out box with red writing in it telling me you cannot manage this from the deduction page. You must go to Employee Benefits, Benefit Plan Setup, and you must modify that on this page. So manage the deduction tied to a benefit in our benefit module must be managed from the benefits, employee benefits, benefit page. If the deduction is not tied to a benefit like this pre-tax med, then I can change it from here. That is considered a straight deduction. So I would always want to put in my start date. Something a little bit different is I can override this. What if Judy only pays into her medical pre-tax 2 times a month on the first and the third pay? I can override every pay by selecting a schedule override. If I need to schedule this to begin on October the 11th, I can do that. And then I would put in the amount of money to be deducted from her check beginning 10/11 as a straight deduction for the medical pre-tax. After hitting saved, I can see that on the first and the third, beginning on 10/11, Judy will be deducted $72.50 for her pre-tax medical. For garnishments, it's always best practice to reach out to the HCM specialist or HR specialist because they know best. iSolved is set up on the most part to be a point and click, but there are things that you need to know. Add new, garnishment type. We'll just say child support. Start date, very important. It's not going to start until October 25th. The sequence of 0 means it will pay this child support first. So if there's multiple garnishments, 0 gets paid first, and then it follows suit. 1, 2, 3. 0 first, 1 would be second, 2 would be third. The description for child support will show up on an employee's check, so be cognizant of that, and then selecting the appropriate state. Notice that when I come down to my ACH payee, I will have my Georgia SDU where I can select that. Enter the case number if you have it, although it is not required, and then the amount for that. Now notice there are several components on this page that will vary employee to employee. That is why it's so very important to reach out to garnishment, wage, or payroll professional to receive advice on best practices when setting up a garnishment. Complete all required fields, entering in other information that you may know, and when you are finished, you would select Save, and your garnishment would appear across the top. Memo calculations are employer-paid portions of things like medical, dental, vision, 401k match. We see Safe Harbor here, basic life. If there amounts associated with memo calculations, just as we saw in earnings and deductions, those amounts would appear here, or percent or rate. And the schedule would be every pay. So if you see an amount here and the default schedule shows every pay, you know that that employer is contributing to that every pay for the employee. These are also managed on the client management memo calculations page. And if tied to a benefit, you will see that also under the benefits page for the employer piece. Lastly, we have looked at direct deposit before. Direct deposit for an existing employee is very similar to the same steps that we performed for a new employee. However, a new employee displays horizontally across the page. An existing employee displays vertically up and down the page. Also, we have a black action bar instead of just an Add New button. If an employee is not going to use an account any longer, it is best practice to select the account they are no longer using. Select the word Edit from the black action bar. Navigate to Status, drop down on the pick list, select Inactive, and then select Save. Now the sequence of remaining net fell away. I would then Add New from the black action bar. We have Active, Inactive, and Pre-Note. If we select Active, it makes it active immediately. If we select Pre-Note, Pre-Note typically takes between 5 to 7 business days. So if this is a weekly payroll processing organization, the employee could potentially receive 2 paper checks. Depends on how they process. I'm going to select Active. The account type is checking, and the sequence should not be 2. We don't want to see sequence of 1 and 2 or just 1 with 100% or 1 and an amount. We want at least one of these accounts to contain the sequence of remaining net. This lets the system know the remaining part of the check. After I send $100 to my savings, the remaining net goes to this new account. I will enter in my routing number and my account number, and you can enter a description if you wish. When you are finished, select Save, and now you'll be able to see the inactive checking account on the bottom, your brand new checking account there on the top. And again, even if you have only one checking, we should always use the words remaining net. Next, we will go over how to terminate and rehire an existing employee. To begin, navigate to Employee Management, Employee Maintenance, General. The black action bar contains the word Terminate. One left mouse click drives you to the termination page. The system defaults to the day that you take the action. However, you can manipulate that. I will drop down on Status. The statuses can be built out to meet your needs. Insubordination drives the termination type, just as relocation. So we have an involuntary and a voluntary termination. If this person is a voluntary termination and they left in good standing and you would like to rehire them, you can select eligible for rehire. If this person is not eligible for rehire, do not check the box. Delete future absences. Run a report. The termination report may contain details such as Judy's personal information, her address, that she has a laptop. You may see earnings and deductions, any leave accruals, memos, garnishments, direct deposits, and absenteeism. Inactivate direct deposits. The last check would be a paper check. Delete any pending benefits, and as you can see, the active benefit plans would end on the stop date, which is the termination date. So if this date is different, you can change that. Once you're finished, select Save, and then Judy would be moved to the termination employee list. Navigating back to the list, if you are looking for terminated employees, navigate to the status column, hover over the filter, select terminated, and deselect any others. If you have inactivated employees, you will see inactivate here too. Say okay. And now I have my terminated employees. Click on the name. And notice the difference in the black action bar. The word terminate is no longer there. Rehire and undo termination is what we see. Undo termination would make this record appear as if you've never terminated that person at all. And you would need to go back to the benefits, earnings, deductions, garnishments, direct deposit, and make sure that everything has been flipped to active again and that all the information is correct. Rehire is best practice, one left mouse click. And now I can rehire if I have an adjusted service date where I'm allowing that person to maybe keep their seniority. They can bypass the probationary period for benefits. I could set that adjusted service date here. Employment category, maybe they were full-time before or either part-time before, and now we're going to change that. And then if the organization uses onboarding, they could select to rehire using onboarding, manipulate the date if you need to, select the template, ensure the self-service email is correct, work location, department, division, location, and then you would hit save. And once you do that, the system will automatically send an email to the employee so that they can complete their electronic paperwork online. We've come to the end of your employee management iSolve training, and we wish you well.